Hello, my Aloha tribe, and welcome to the Aloha Perspective, where you get a little bit of something and a whole lot of everything. Happy Friday! It is Friday! Yay! I was not on yesterday. Had a bit of a self-care day myself. Excuse me. It must be Friday. Good morning, Muddy. Okay, so let's get rolling here. So this is going to be funny. I even put soapbox time up here because somebody's getting on her soapbox today. I was trying to find something to talk about. On Wednesday, I talked about men's mental health because I think it's important that we really kind of shine a light on that so that more men do get help. But I was going through my pictures, files, whatever you want to call them, and I was kind of like, what can I do? And then I remember a couple weeks ago, I was at one of my favorite cafes, and this time I sat outside. So for the first time, oh yes, happy Aloha Friday, buddy. Thank you, mahalo. So I was thinking, I was just sitting there looking, and I saw the sign, and I was like, oh, that's kind of a cool sign. And then I thought, how sad, that a sign like this needs to be made. I mean, it was a great sign. So I'm going to read it to you. Okay. This was at the Public Square in La Mesa. I mean, it's a great coffee shop. Very welcoming, very in tune to the world. I loved it. I love it. I should say, not loved it. I love it. So, the sign says, we welcome all races and ethnicities, all religions, all countries of origin, all gender identities, all sexual orientations, all abilities and disabilities, all spoken languages, all ages, everyone. We stand here with you. You are safe here. And I was thinking about this, right? And a lot of people would say, well, that sign is so woke. If you're using the term like that in a very derogatory manner, then you need to look it up and actually find out what it means. All right, here comes the soapbox time. You really need to get on your game, Google this, and find out what woke actually means. Okay, it's about fighting against racism and social injustice. So if that's woke to you, you really need to think about your priorities. And I'm just saying it, okay? You really need to think about your priorities, or you really need to understand what the word actually means. It is a word that has been around for decades, if not over a century. And, I hate that the word now has been taken by a group of people who are so far to one end that they can't even see straight anymore. Everything's about denial, everything's about this, everything's about that. And I don't want to make this into politics, okay? So, because I want to bring it back to the important part of this. We welcome all races and ethnicities. Can you imagine what it must be like for you to pick up stakes, okay? Or flee, depending on what the situation is like in your country, to come to an entirely different country where you're not even sure you're welcome? Or where many people go out of their way to make you feel unwelcome. And then we wonder why everybody just clumps themselves into their own communities because they don't feel safe outside of their communities. Or when you meet somebody and maybe you have a small, maybe somebody cuts you off or something, they're already bristling. They're already on high alert because of the way people treat them. And then we wonder why people don't like us sometimes. We wonder why people sit there and, just like, oh, well, they're so arrogant, or they're so this, because we act like it sometimes. Imagine how hard it must be to leave behind everything you know and go somewhere else. Or imagine how bad it must be for you to walk hundreds or thousands of miles, depending. I mean, when I say thousands, it could be like 2,000, right? But still, I can't even imagine doing a 5K right now, which is 3.1 miles, let alone walking up an entire continent for a chance at a better life. What must that be like? Well, we don't know because, we have our freedom of speech. So far, we have our freedom of speech. We have our luxuries, even if we struggle or even if things aren't financially perfect for us or great, we're still doing a hell of a lot better than a lot of other people around this world, you know? And we blame other people. We sit there and we point fingers. We listen to people that sit there and fill our heads with lies, or some people's heads with lies, that are unable to discern the lie from the truth. And we believe them because, you know, we want someone to blame for why our lives are so bad. If your life is not great, you need to take a good look at yourself. Stop pointing the finger in every direction, because remember, when you're pointing a finger, guess what? There are 3 pointing back at you. There are 3 pointing back at you. Sammy says it too. I can't imagine it either. I cannot imagine leaving my entire family behind or carting my kids somewhere, if I had kids, to, you know, to find a place. You know, we have this whole other thing going on the other side of the world where people can't even get decent care or, you know, global aid because there's so much hatred right now. There's so much anger. When does this stop? The fact that we need a sign like this in a public place is sad. I am grateful they put this sign up. But what kind of place do we live in now? You know, land of the free, home of the brave? What free? You know, I mean, I don't know. I'm just stunned and baffled, like, all at the same time. I would almost be speechless if I didn't have to do this show, because when I read this the other night and I wrote it down into my book so that I could read it to you, I was just like, you know, how sad, because every all that was on that sign was bold. All. Justice for all. Freedom for all. You know, I have the deepest respect for our military. Okay, I have a lot of military family. I grew up in a military town. You know, a lot of my neighbors at one point were military when I grew up here. And I know people have a lot of feelings about that. But you know, they're not the only people that are free and brave. Their families that send them off are brave. Their friends that send them off are brave. You know, right now in this country, if you think a different way, you kind of have to be brave to stand up for what you believe in, because other people are just going to bat you down with their nastiness and their unkind words. You know, I talked about that in one of my shows a long time ago, how I have a friend who went, I don't know, I don't want to say it because, you know, in their mind they're not, and they may think I am. But I have a friend that I have a very strained relationship with now because of their politics. And because our politics no longer agree. Exactly. And it's exactly what Sammy said. And she capitalized caps, shouty caps. All. This country was founded for justice and freedom for all. The reason our founding fathers made a constitution and the Bill of Rights and all those other wonderful things, the Declaration of Independence, is because they knew that this country was going to change. It wasn't going to stay the same as they founded it. I'm pretty sure they knew one day slavery would come to an end, even though some of them did own slaves. I am sure they understood that women one day would have more rights, because at that time, women didn't really have rights. You watch all of these old shows, right, where these Westerns. Last night, my dad was watching Gunsmoke, and I was watching. I'd seen this episode before, but it was about this woman. She had her brother killed, and she tried to have the marshal killed because she wanted to get married, right? Because nobody took her seriously unless she was married. But she also just had a lot of problems. I mean, a lot of cuckoo. But I mean, still, right? She had these people killed so that she could be in charge, get married, and just have her own family, do her own thing. Because back in those days, women didn't have a lot of rights. If you were a woman, and like Miss Kitty, right? I know if you're not familiar with this show, it's actually pretty, I like it. It went on for like 20 seasons, but I like Westerns anyway. But Miss Kitty owned her own saloon, right? And, you know, they had the saloon girls and stuff. But see, if you were that kind of woman, then you were that kind of woman. But you know what? Sometimes they didn't have a choice. It was get married or figure out how to make money on your own, or constantly be bamboozled by people trying to steal your property, trying to steal all of your cattle or whatever, or just, ostracize you because, you were doing a man's job. Fuck that. All right. I'm sorry. This may be a mouthy one too, because I'm tired of seeing the way things are. I love all the people that fight for gender equality. I love all the people that fight for equal pay. I think that's great. I think that's wonderful. And it's not just women, it's men too, okay? Because there are a lot of men who sit there and go, hey, wait, just the other day, right? Bestie Troy was on and we were talking about how unfair it is, this gender disparity. Is that the right way to say it? The gender disparity between men and women. And, and then now we have an entirely other group with the LGBTQ and they're even more ostracized, right? But I mean, we welcome all races and ethnicities. If you're a tourist in another country, you suddenly fall under all races and ethnicities. You're an American in another country. So that's right. That sign, if it were sitting somewhere else, would be welcoming you. All religions. If you go to a Muslim country and you're a Catholic and this sign might be out there, you're welcome. And it may or may not be. I don't know. I've never been to another country. I mean, I've been to another country, but I've never been to a Muslim country. I've never been to a Hindu country. I've never been to, a country that practices primary Buddhism. Obviously all of those religions exist here in the United States, and we're lucky for that. Because we are a melting pot. We are a country that allows people to be free and expressive. They welcome all countries of origin. If you go to China and you see this sign in a window, congratulations, you've just been welcomed into that coffee shop. But we don't think about that, do we? No, we think about, what's here. We think about everything that we're in charge of. But we don't think about the fact that when we go to Mexico or Canada, you are welcome in these places. You are allowed to go into these places. Gender identities. Why should it matter to you how somebody else identifies? I know that pronouns are a bit upending for a lot of people. They were for me at first. I finally, kind of just fallen into it and said, okay, that's fine. And I get it. A lot of people, the English language and the French language, because I'm relearning, I'm retraining my brain in French. I remember now, Bestie and I had a conversation the other day, and I was like, you know what? Now I remember where I struggled so much in high school. It was with all the verbs and the pronouns and this, that, and the other, and 5,000 meanings for one word. And it's a lot like English. But we welcome all gender identities. If you don't like their they, them, they, her, she, him, she, her, he, him, whatever. If you don't like that, don't worry about it. That's not you. You don't have to worry about it. If somebody asks you politely to refer to them as whatever, that's fine. That's no different than you saying, excuse me, could you call me Mrs. or Mr. or Miss or Miss? In the South, it's very common to call someone, Miss so-and-so. Sammy, help me out here because you live in the South. What do they call men? Like Mr. something? I remember my dad had friends and they always wanted, they're all like, oh, you can call me by my first name. I was never comfortable with it. So it would be like Miss so-and-so or Mr. so-and-so, because it just felt to me like it was a sign of respect. Apparently there's some kind of Southern ingrained in me, but yeah, or I think we're just so on edge nowadays and we just have so many opinions that we sometimes forget to see straight. And I'm not perfect, all right? I'm sitting here like I was already bashing a certain group of people. And I'm not better. I'm no better than they are. They're no better than me. Only difference is I can see past it. Some people get so zeroed in on their beliefs that they can't see past their own nose. Okay, yeah, Sammy says, yeah, with our elders, it's always Mr. and Miss. And that's like in Hawaii, right? Everybody's auntie or uncle. If they're older than you, auntie or uncle. Okay, so the next one. So we had all gender identities. And like I said, I get it. But you know what? Just be kind to one another. You know, if someone's gently asking you, and they may not even say anything when it comes to their pronouns, they may just be like, well, you know, but if you know somebody, just, you know, refer to them appropriately. I know it's hard, but we live in a world where change is a constant, and we're growing, we're progressing. And sometimes we have to learn how to grow and progress with everybody, not just what we choose to grow and progress with. So the next one, all sexual orientations. I know that I said I was going to do some Pride stuff this month. I am an ally of the community, and but you know, I am an ally of the community every day of the year, every second, every moment. I have a lot of friends. My best friend since high school is gay. Oh yeah, see, they say we do auntie. It's auntie, isn't it? Auntie and uncle. But yeah, I don't know, in our, I know people that say auntie and I know people that say auntie, but I know in the South, auntie is a huge thing. But sexual orientations, what do you care what someone does behind their doors? Why do you care if you see two women or two men or two whoever's holding their hands, you know, walking down the street? You don't care if you see a man and a woman do it. So knock it off. Quit it. Just stop. Just because it tests your feelings about something, if you are totally comfortable in your body and as who you are, you're not going to care. I don't care. And yeah, sure, that's just me, but I've never cared. Even before I found out my best friend was gay just after high school. You know, I've never cared. It never mattered to me. As they say, love is love. When you get married, you're not marrying the person on the outside. If you are, then you are in deep shit, okay? You're marrying the person. You fell in love with the person that they are. You fell in love with their personality. Because guess what? All this, it's going to change. It changes over time. All of this, it gets different. It gets different. It does. Nobody looks the same as they did when they were 15 years old. And if they did, they're probably a vampire, all right? Or into some kind of awesome voodoo that we all need to find out about and find that fountain of youth. But seriously, we spend too much time. All right. Now look, I'm going to hit this, and I don't want to hit this, but I'm going to hit this because I think it's part of the problem. People tend to weaponize the Bible. All right. People tend to weaponize the Bible. Now, I'm not saying everybody, because I know a lot of people who welcome everybody. One of the things I loved about Pope Francis is he said, you know, hey, if they choose to come to church, I'm not going to judge them. You know, and that was divorced people and the LGBTQ. Okay. But there are people in this world that will take the Bible or the Quran or the Torah or whatever it is. They will take it and they will weaponize it to fit their own narrative. Now, a lot of people go by the King James Version of the Bible. Hello, there's a reason it's called the King James Version of the Bible. Because the king changed it to fit a lot of his narratives. That's a fact. You can go look it up. You can Google the hell out of it. I think one of the reasons why the original texts of the Bible are hidden and not really available to anyone, or why they're just shoved away in some corner that no one can remember where they put it, is because I think that if we actually knew what the original set of the Bible was supposed to be, religion would look a lot different. It would look a lot different. It was probably something that was less manipulated, less weaponized to suit a certain group of people's own, you know, whatever. Yeah, Cher does kind of look the same. Yeah, she kind of does. But you know what? Okay, so we're sidebarring here, all right? This is Friday free for all right? So Sammy just mentioned Cher, who does look like she's been dipping into the fountain of youth. You know what's funny about her, though? She was all like, yeah, she loves Dr. Pepper. Diet Dr. Pepper, I think it was. And people that know this in different cities that she goes to will literally deliver it to her. But she loves Diet Dr. Pepper. My dad loves Diet Dr. Pepper. I'm pretty sure that 90% of Ed Lucas is Dr. Pepper. But Sibley and I saw her in concert. Oh, I guess it was, I think it was the same summer my mom passed away. So about 11 years ago. So, I mean, still 11 years ago. Okay. Cher was in her I think she was in her late 60s or whatever. She was wearing the same outfit that she wore when she did the video. Was it If I Could Turn Back Time? The one where she's on the Navy ship. I was like, damn. That's legit. Okay, that is legit. I mean, and people will sit there and go, yeah, well, Cher has all the time in the world to exercise this, that, and the other. Well, not everybody does. Not everybody does. Okay, she just like, yeah, I just wanted to see if I fit it in. I did. And then she was joking because she says, maybe it's all the Diet Dr. Pepper I drink. Which it very well could be. Who knows? Maybe that's the magic key, right? I mean, there is doctor in it. But anyways, yeah, so, but also Cher, I mean, we'll use her as an example. She had to adjust when her daughter came out as transgender. She went from chastity to Chaz, and Sammy says she might in fact be a vampire. She might be. We need to become friends with Cher. All right. And if she is a vampire, we need to be turned by Cher. All right. She needs to turn us into vampires because, I mean, how cool would it be to hang out with Cher for the rest of your eternity? But, I mean, and I like her too because she's so blunt, so no nonsense. But I mean, even she talked about how she struggled with her child's, wanting to, being transgender. I mean, I think it was one thing to find out that she was gay or a lesbian, but then to find out that, she just wasn't comfortable in the body she was in, and everyone will sit there and go, well, God gave you that body. Yeah, well, you know what? God doesn't make mistakes. No, but you know what? This is life, right? And not everybody believes in God. Because I'm sure there are other gods out there that would just say, hey, you know what? Okay. Buddha would probably be like, you know what? Your soul is what's enlightened. The outside is just a casing. If you would like to change the outside, change the outside. I'm pretty sure he doesn't care. And to be fair, I'm pretty sure Jesus didn't care. When you really stop and think about it, Jesus was a liberal. He was a liberal. Everything that he tried to teach us and everything that he tried to show us pointed in the direction away from what the Bible, is always saying. I don't think Jesus was judgy. I mean, if you believe in Jesus, I really don't think he was judgy. I don't think the Prophet Muhammad was judgy. These are people who are out there just trying to spread the word of kindness and love and, love your neighbor, right? In the Bible, it says, love thy neighbor as you would love yourself or something like that. I'm sorry, I can't remember all my commandments and all the thingies anymore. But it didn't say unless they are blah, blah, blah. No, it's very straight and to the point. Love thy, So the next one, all abilities and disabilities. Now, I know in the entertainment industry, there's a little bit of a huff about ableism and non-ableism. So in certain shows, I get it. The ableism is, basically someone who can, who's not, if I remember this correctly, forgive me if I get it wrong, but people who will be hired to play someone who is disabled, even though they are able-bodied, or ableism where we just try to make excuses. I can't remember exactly the term, and I apologize for that. I should have done my homework on that part because I knew I wanted to talk about it. But there is. And in some cases it's because, they want to go in a direction where this person may be able to, move past the handicap or the disability, I should say. Not, I don't know. I know handicap just feels like such a negative word nowadays, but beyond the disability. But what I love is that all abilities and disabilities are welcome. What I love in Wicked, the sister that was Nessa, I believe her name is, she's in a wheelchair. I believe the girl really is in a wheelchair. And I think that's great. I think we need to allow people, we need to open and expand. And a lot of people will sit there and go, well, I don't want to do that because there's going to be so much more. You know what? Older sibling has a disability. She has CRPS. And she tries to be like everybody else. And that's all they want, just to be treated like everybody else. And that's what's great about this place. I mean, there is a little bit of an area where you can step up onto, and it's probably a little more difficult if you're in a chair, but they have so many seats in this area that are just, that are friendly to everybody. disability or no disability. So let's be kind to those of us. You know, if you see somebody rolling up in a wheelchair, don't let the door shut in their face. Chances are they can open it, yes, but this is one of the reasons why they feel invisible. Okay, now, if you are a person rolling up and somebody lets the door shut in your face, it is probably not because you're invisible. It's probably because they do that to everybody. All right, so there's two sides of the coin there. I cannot tell you how many times people just let the door go in my face. Like it would have killed you to stay there for 2 more seconds. It always surprises me now when people hold the door for me, you know, and I feel bad looking surprised, but I mean, I always say thank you. I even say thank you for the people that don't say thank you because I'm a bit bitchy sometimes. I grew up, hey, I'm a Gen Xer, all right? We grew up, mind your P's and Q's, be polite, and that's anybody across the board. That is any generation. I know rude people from every generation, so I guess I shouldn't say that's a generational thing, but boy, my mom, did you remember to say thank you? I remember one time I didn't say thank you and she had me go up to the person and say thank you. And I'm like, I'm really sorry. Thank you so much. And I like that though, because she was teaching me manners. Manners, people. So all spoken languages. There's another one. That's kind of like races and ethnicities and countries of origin, right? But all spoken languages. Remember, folks, if you leave this country and you go to another country, if you go to Mexico, don't expect them to speak English. They probably do, but don't expect them to. You're going to their country. So don't be all in their face or arrogant and sit there and go, well, why don't you speak English? Like the majority of the world speaks English. They don't have to. Okay? They might, but just to spite you, they may not. Because I'm telling you right now, if you came up to me and demanded me to speak your language, I would be like, I can try. I'll do my best. But if you're demanding it, oh, I got a good story about that. So I have no problem with, this is a country where we welcome everybody. Language is included. Is it helpful for people to learn English? Probably yes, because that is the main language of this country. So, and I see a lot of people that try. So if someone's trying, maybe they're new here, just be patient. Just be patient. I know sometimes when, you call up to these restaurants and you're ordering like straight out of the ethnic, library of menus, they may not speak the best English. They may speak a little bit of broken English, but they're doing their best. Okay. They're doing their best. And if you can't understand, then just go there in person and get it done. Just point at the menu. All right. But let's be patient with one another, because when we go somewhere else, that's right. We have the opportunity to probably speak English with these people, but we should not be expected to. However, when it comes to spoken languages, when I was a pharmacy tech in my past life, many moons ago, there was a woman there, and because I'm half Filipino, half white, and a little bit of Hawaiian, for some reason, a lot of people mistake me for being Mexican, and that's okay. It's probably my skin tone. My hair gets curly, and that's okay. I don't mind. A lot of times I can see the disappointment when they ask me if I speak Spanish, and I say no, which is another language I would like to learn just to help people, just to help. Knowing what little French I know, I've been able to help people at Disneyland. I know, right? I'm like, I hear them panicking and it's like, and I'm like, okay, do you speak English? Because I said, I understand French, but I can't speak it back yet. So, and we're able to somehow communicate. There's always one person in the group that can translate. But this woman, a lovely abuela, comes in, but she starts getting mad at me because I can't speak Spanish. You kids nowadays, you need to know your language. You need to know your heritage. You need this, you need that. And I'm just standing there stunned. Other people would have been like, well, you should have. And my boss just said, what happened? Or she's all, what's going on down there? Because this woman was just yelling. I mean, literally yelling at me. And my boss, I didn't say a thing. I did not say a thing. I didn't, I was trying to explain to her that I didn't speak Spanish, that I wasn't Spanish. And, my Filipino blood, I have some in there, but my boss just says, ma'am, she's Hawaiian. The lady just grabbed her stuff and left. But so see, there is a two-way street here. But you got to remember, if you live in California, you live in Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, these used to all be territories of Mexico. And California, I believe, was probably one of the last ones to be integrated into the United States and kind of taken away from Mexico. So a lot of people still see this as their land, and I understand that. And I try to be, I wasn't when I was younger, but now, you know, as I get older and I really start kind of looking around and opening my eyes to the world and saying, hey, how can we make this a better place? I do try to be a little bit more accommodating. All right. I know a little bit of Spanish. I can order beer and margaritas in Spanish. Or one more, please. But yeah, so, I mean, you know, it's a two-way street. And as you can see, I'm not perfect. I am like the least perfect person you will ever meet in your life. Because, you know, there's some situations you get in, you're just like, you know, and then you're like, I mean, even that day, it's like, why am I being yelled at? Why am I being yelled at? You know, I mean, I wanted to take Spanish in high school, but I couldn't get in. All the classes were full. That's how I ended up in French, you know, and if French class was full, I would have ended up in German. So getting farther and farther from the United States. But yeah, so, you know, just be kind. Just be kind and just be patient. All right. Everybody is doing their best. All right. When you go to another country, you know, if they will probably be able to spot that you probably do not speak the language well. But don't just automatically expect them to speak it. Just, you know, try. You know, there's Google Translate. We have phones now that do this stuff for us. You know, or try to learn something. I was watching this show on this one girl on YouTube who's French. And she's all, even if you just try a basic saying, she's all, we speak English here, but she's all, even if you just try a basic saying, they know you're trying. And she's on, you will probably get a lot farther with them because you're trying. So there you go. All right. There's a little bit of a hint when you go to other countries. Just try to learn one or two things. All right. Even if it's just asking for something. So the last one, all ages. We welcome all ages. I like that. I never had kids. Never had the opportunity. Well, I never had kids. I'll leave it at that. But I have a lot of nieces and nephews, and I know a lot of people will go places and they'll be like, oh, there's kids, you know. I have to admit, I was a bit judgy the last few nights. My Padres were in San Francisco playing, and there were oh my God, there were these kids sitting right, and I don't know who thought it was a good idea to put a microphone right on the wall behind the umpire. I mean, I get it. Sometimes they do it for the umpire so you can hear what he's calling and blah, blah, blah on the TV. But this mic was so strong. I mean, that's all I heard were these kids all night. And then I was sitting there going like, oh my God, do they ever stop? And then I thought, you know what? I shouldn't be judging, because when I go to my hockey games or when I go to baseball games or football games, I mean, I remember one time my mom asked me, hey, were you sitting over on this end of the field and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, why? She's all, I could hear you. I'm like, oh, you could hear us? No, I could hear you. I know. So I'm like, oh yeah, I shouldn't be judgy, because I was those kids. I'm still those kids. But yeah, I mean, they're having fun, right? So all ages are welcome. Everybody's welcome, you know. If you see kids and you don't sit there and sit down and complain about it, go somewhere else. All right. Because these people are just out there having a fun time, and they don't need your negativity. All right. They don't need your negativity. I mean, like I said, there are times I have to reel myself in, like hard. I have to reel myself in because I'm human. Like I said, I'm the least perfect person you will ever meet in your life. And I am perfectly happy with that. I am perfectly happy being imperfect. I have my moments. I am human. We all have our moments. But the reason I really felt like this was a soapbox time was because, you know what? I think we have completely forgotten what this country was based on. And I really believe that we have forgotten what we were here for. We were here to welcome the different people. This country was founded a lot on the fact that people could, practice their religions freely. Because even though they all seemed to fall under some wing of Christianity at the time, there were different religions. There were different ways that people, worshipped. I mean, look at the Amish, right? They're very different. I mean, but they're right smack dab in the middle of, the East Coast, living their lives, just doing their thing, but living in a very different way than the people around them do, right? I mean, don't be surprised if you go to Pennsylvania and you see a horse and buggy, amongst all the cars and motorcycles and motorbikes and all those things, So, I mean, it's a different way of living, but it's here, on one street, there's a mosque, a temple, and a church. And then there's a Catholic church. I mean, on one street in my, where I live now in Orange County. It's just, when we let religion get in the way, it becomes a problem. We shouldn't, we sit there and say, well, I don't like this group of people because they have extremists. Every religion has extremists, except maybe the Buddhists and the Hindu. Okay. I mean, the Buddhists are so Zen. I'm not even sure they have anything. I don't know that much about them, but I know what I've read. Okay. But when you have the two big religions of the world, right, there's always extremists in every angle. And we can't, ostracize or marginalize a group of people because of what just a handful of people have done. Okay? I mean, if you're out there going, well, Christians are better. Christians have bombed Planned Parenthoods. They've bombed abortion centers. They've killed in the name of God. All these things. Yeah, see, and Sammy says same there. Many religious buildings all in one street. And I think that's great. Now, mind you, if you do worship, if you do believe in God, I'm not berating you. But I will say this. If you're a group of people who sit there and will say, well, I'm leaving this church because I don't think we should accept these people, then you are literally going against what God is trying to teach you. If you are going to weaponize the Bible, you have no business reading it. If you're going to weaponize any of the religious texts in this world, you have no business reading it because you're judgy and you need to get whapped upside the head by your mama. All right? Because we should be accepting of all people. Whoever you turn your faith to, do you really, really think that there are people who are sitting there saying, well, I love you, but only if you hate these people? No. You see, there's a lot of racism that goes on in the world and in this country. Okay, there are people that are saying, well, the Bible says blah, blah, blah. And yet the whole group of people that they might be racist towards are the same people reading out of the same Bible. So it's not what the Bible says. It's how you interpret it. And it's how you weaponize it. And if you're going to weaponize it to hurt other people, to marginalize other people, then you can pound sand. As far as I'm concerned, you can go hit the bricks. And that's why I was saying, that's what I loved about Pope Francis. It's what I love about Pope Leo. Pope Leo is following on the same path as Pope Francis. And I was a little nervous when we got a new Pope because, like I said, I may not be a practicing Catholic, but I was raised a Catholic. And so there's always a part of me. And I think a lot of it is because it does connect me to my mom. So, there's always a part of me that's going to be Catholic. And I'm not ashamed of it. I used to be, but I'm not anymore because I realize there are people who make mistakes. There are a lot of changes that need to be made in the Catholic Church. For a lot of the scandals that they were going through, Pope Francis went through and tried to clean that up. All right. So, for all you people who are saying, well, Catholic, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, those were a handful of people and a lot of other people who did not handle it well. And Pope Francis came through and he says, there are over 1 billion Catholics in this world. So basically they are kind of the ruling majority when it comes to religion. And I think he knew this, and so he tried to remind people. I knew somebody who has since passed away years and years and years ago. I knew her through older sibling, and it was kind of an open secret that she was gay, but she never said anything because she never wanted to be kicked out of church. She was a Catholic, went to church every Sunday. I mean, I had no idea until older sibling told me, and then we went to her funeral. I was like, wait, what? I had no idea. She's like, oh yeah, every Sunday before the club where she performed, because she knew older sibling's mom. Actually, older sibling called her grandpa. But and I think it's okay for me to share, because it's they've had articles and everything written about her. But she was a very devout Catholic, but she would not share her sexual orientation because she was worried that the Catholic Church would ostracize her. She'd be so proud now to know that she would have been able to just be herself at church. You know, I have another friend who's Catholic, used to teach at a Catholic school, and you know, they're still very devout, but they're gay. And that's why I loved this sign. Not because of one of my friends or whatever, but because I know that the people I know, wherever they're from, wherever they hail from, wherever they call their country of origin, however old they are, whether they're in a wheelchair, on crutches or whatever, that they are welcome in this place. They are welcome in a place where they won't be looked at, you know, they won't have a double take. You know, no one's going to sit there and judge them. No one's going to sit there and be rude to them. Everybody was welcome. It didn't say we're going to exclude this group of people. No, it says all people are welcome, everyone. No infighting, no outfighting, just a bunch of people being together. And like I said, if you think that that sign that I just read you was woke, then you really need to, like I said, you need to get on the Google, and you need to go to the Google, all right? And you need to actually look up the definition for that, because again, it's about fighting against racism and social injustice. That is the actual definition of the word before it was manipulated and weaponized to be a word that people just throw around like, you know, hey, like, hello, no, you're so woke. And it's like, thank you. I'm so grateful that I am empathetic and compassionate towards other people's needs. That would be your response now. Okay. So again, I think it's sad that we have to have signs like this in this world, especially in this country where we're supposed to be a little more open-minded and welcoming. But I admit I live in a tiny bubble in California. You know, a lot of people will sit there and go, I don't know why ever that's such a big deal. And it's like, have you been to the other 49 states, or have you been to the other 48 states? Hawaii's pretty progressive, you know, in their own way. They always have been. But it's like, have you ever been to the Bible Belt? Have you seen some of the stuff that goes down there? Sammy and I were talking about this not too long ago, about all the differences in a lot of different places. So, you know, I feel very fortunate to live here in California because, you know, they're doing their best they can to keep us in a good place. And, you know, it's not perfect here, but I'll take it. So again, I'm going to read this sign one more time, then I'm going to let you go, and you can think about all my soapboxy stuff I've said. And remember, like I said, I'm not perfect. I get judgy like everybody else. And the older I get, the less I hide it. But I'm trying. You know, I am that person like many other people on this planet, like Sammy. You know, Sammy and I talk about this too, Muddy. You know, it's not what can we change in this world. It's how can we make it better? What can we add to this world that makes it better? I know her church is very open and accepting of everybody. You know, you could roll in from the street, all right? You could be a hedgehog rolling in and go, and maybe a talking hedgehog, right? And go, and they'll be like, welcome, hedgehog, welcome. I know that's the dumbest example I could give, but I mean, seriously, you could be anybody just walking in and saying, hey, you know, I needed a community to be around right now. So, but I'm not this or I'm not that. It's okay. Come on in. That's how we should be. That's how welcoming we should be. So again, we welcome all races and ethnicities, all religions, all countries of origin, all gender identities, all sexual orientations, all abilities and disabilities, all spoken languages, all ages, everyone. We stand here with you. You are safe here. I'm currently looking for, our musicians minister is gay. Yeah, one of my former drama teacher from high school, I believe he's the organist in his church. And yeah, he and his partner have been together for a gazillion years. And I mean, I never knew in high school, but you know, I didn't care. I didn't care. I mean, he was like one of my favorite teachers. So, you know, instead of putting on your judgy glasses every day, maybe it wouldn't hurt to put on a pair of rose-colored glasses. You know, try to see the world the way you would like it to look. Not with hatred, not with anger, not with, you know, trying to dissociate from everybody who doesn't fit your mold of what you think people here should be like. But putting on those glasses and, you know, trying to see, what can I do for my fellow man or woman? What can I do for my fellow person? What can I do to make this a better place? What can I do to put love into this world, to you know, kind of stamp out all the hatred? There's always going to be somebody out there that is sitting there going, hey, blah, 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 you know, hate, hate, hate. But we could also be the people that go out there and go, love, 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 love. All right. So I know it's all over the board on this one, but I really wanted to share that sign because I really thought it was important. This weekend, I'm going to be working on something, and I'm going to see if I finish it by Monday, it'll be fun. Okay. Because like I said, we're going to get into some, it's Pride Month. So this girl who is going to try to come up with some Pride things. Last year, I did a whole thing on Stonewall. And I wish I could find my notes on that because that was great. I mean, I was very, all the information I found, I was like, wow, I had no idea. So I do want to, I totally missed AAPI month, which is my half of my group of people, the Asian or Pacific Islander, Hawaiians, all of them. But I will try to be better. Okay. So, yeah, but Pride Month, I think enough people know about Asians, enough people know about Spanish heritage, Black History Month, all the other things, but we never focus on the most marginalized group of people in this country and probably the world. And that is our LGBTQIA plus community. We need to really break the stigma on this group of people because they are wonderful, they're amazing, they're fabulous, they are humans. You know, they're humans just like everybody else. They, you know, they just love differently. And I put that in quotes because it's like, I don't care who you love who you love, you know. Check the TCM schedule. Oh, you know what? I think I saw it. I actually have the Max app, and Max has TCM on it. So, Bestie Troy says, we are okay. LOL. Yeah, you're okay, but there are a lot of you who do not feel okay. And I've known a few. I've talked to a few, and oh, it hurts me because a lot of them are the younger ones, and they're so afraid to come out because they just, you know. But yeah, I want to really focus on that. But also, like I said, what I'm planning is because it's something that confuses the hell out of me. So I figure if I do some kind of visual for this thing I'm planning, it will happen this month. I'm just not sure if it'll happen next week or if I can finish it this weekend. But if I can do this, it might help a lot of us to understand and go like, oh, okay, you know. So I found a site that will help me. It's a group that's been around since the early 90s, and it's just like, oh, thank you for the explanation because wow, I had no clue. And it's like I'm always Googling like, what does this mean? What does this mean? What does this mean? What does this mean? So and you know, maybe I am. I mean, Bestie says they're okay. Oh, and good morning, by the way. Bonjour, bonjour, mon ami. But maybe I'm going overboard, but you know what? There are groups of people out there that need to know this stuff. So, you know, I'm going to share it. So anyways, again, I will talk to everybody on Monday. Have a wonderful, wonderful and safe weekend. Have a great weekend. I will see you back here Monday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific time, Facebook Live. All lives are public. Anybody can watch under Shelly Marie Lucas. You can find me across the board on social media, and I want to thank Muddy, as usual, for coming on, and Bestie for popping on today. I know it's not always easy for you to come on, so I do appreciate it when you're able to jump on when you have that free moment. So again, have a great day, everybody. Happy Friday, happy Aloha Friday, and have a wonderful and safe weekend. I will see you Monday.